Olivia Beavers on this morning. Good morning, Olivia.
Morgan, I'm getting used to you now. This is great. Good to
I
see you.
know. We got a little girl power on Salem News
Yeah, we
lately.
do.
Listen, there is so much going on in the House. I was so excited when I saw that you were on the guest list this morning because you can explain everything to us. First of all, the last time I was hosting, we didn't even have a Speaker of the House. Now we have one, and I believe, it's hard for me, even as somebody who pays attention to politics, Olivia, it's hard for me to keep up where we are in these government funding fights. I think we run out of money next week. Are we going to get there? Is the government going to be funded? Is it going to shut down? Can you just give us a synopsis of where we are?
Well, the problem is that you're asking the question that House Republicans are all asking, which is they don't have the answer. So yesterday they have what we call their weekly, conference meeting where all the members gather and they discuss what they want to do with their path forward. And basically, Speaker Johnson presented three options. The one that the consensus was they did not want to have happen was to be jammed by the Senate, likely with an omnibus, which means all the funding bills are basically packaged together and passed just sort of as they were. The other options were a clean CR or a laddered CR. And Republicans on both sides, I heard appropriators on both sides were arguing for a clean CR or a laddered CR. A laddered CR is essentially you would fund a portion of the government for a certain amount of time, maybe through December, and then fund another portion maybe through January. So they'd want to fund the military for a longer time until they could come up with some sort of better fix. And that's kind of confusing other Republicans who say, you said you didn't want to do a short-term spending bill. Why are we now voting on two? So,
So if that
they don't really have an answer.
Okay, so if that happens, that means that you and I could be having this discussion in both December and again in January. Am I hearing you right?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
So they were very much promising, saying we don't want this fight to be happening over Christmas like it was in years past. That is not, I don't have confidence that the holidays aren't going to be jammed by this fight.
Wow. Yeah. Well, maybe they should do their job and then they can have a holiday. Just a thought. One of the things, too, that I know was really a sticking point in the Senate, I don't know where this is in the House, is the arguments, the debate over having the funding, additional funding for Israel. The administration obviously wanting money for Ukraine as well. Republicans not wanting to do that. Republicans also wanting border funding. So what's the status of being able to get aid to Israel? Is it going to definitely have to include Ukraine and border funding for this all to pass? Or do you think there might be a standalone Israel package?
We still haven't been able to figure out how it's going to move forward in the House. So Speaker Johnson probably went with what his right wanted him to do, which was a little bit more of the politically divisive approach, which of passing Israel aid. It's not going to be palatable. It's basically been, Biden said he would veto it. Senate said they're not going to accept it. So maybe it gets folded into a short-term spending bill. During the meeting yesterday with House Republicans, they did talk about the border, but they still don't know how they want to tie the border in. So that's something that they're going to be pushing forward with, but do they tie it to Ukraine aid? Do they try to use that as leverage? That was just something that they were also floating where they haven't been able to figure out what their next strategy is forward. And Speaker Johnson will definitely have to figure out, how to move forward in the next couple of days because we're now in crunch time with 9 days left. And, his conference is not all on the same page. So he's going to have to probably make one of those early tough calls in his speakership about how to move forward on this.
And we're in crunch time, Olivia, right when we have unprecedented numbers of attacks of U.S. troops, on bases and facilities in the Middle East, over 40 attacks in the last month. And so I think you're right. That's why so many people want to see the military fully funded. Olivia, we've also been talking this morning about the censure vote of Rashida Tlaib. We have less than a minute left, but this was a historic vote. This has not happened a lot in the history of Congress. Break down for us how you see the effects of this vote to censure Rashida Tlaib for her anti-Semitic statements.
So I found it interesting. There were about 4 Republican no votes, and the rest voted for them. The members who did not vote for it were members like Ken Buck, Massey, Duarte, who probably agree that what Rashida Tlaib had said is is unacceptable, but they're very much the free speech kind of Republicans. So they just didn't want
Hmm.
that record on there because they usually will argue that they fear that Democrats will then turn around and use their free speech against them. But then I
Yeah.
think with Democrats, they actually had a pretty impressive showing, which was 22 in a pretty divisive
Yeah.
time. 22 voted for it. It really upset them and confused them with their strategy of
Well, thank you so much, Olivia. We've got to run. We always learn something from Olivia Beavers, congressional correspondent at Politico.